Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. You can also reach me there if you want to tell your story. You can also find me on YouTube, Slam the Gavel. And please like and subscribe. And I have a return guest on. I'm happy to have my good friend Marc Fishman back on. He's last been on season 5, episodes 202, 224, 240, and 264. And we're going to talk about updates of retaliation on him by multiple judges. And suddenly, a police chief is kicked out because he was hiding cameras and other things. And apparently that came out in the news yesterday, New York State. So I welcome you, Marc Fishman. Tell me more.
Thank you, Maryann. Maryann, I enjoy this podcast, speaking with you as a victim like of family court corruption and discrimination and retaliation. It's always refreshing to have what I would say is a common sense conversation. So thank you for having me, and thank you to your viewers. And yes, we're here to report that we are being subject to more retaliation, not unexpected. So those of you who are aware, we won a federal decision against New York court system for denying real-time transcription, note taker, large print court orders, and aid to assist me in the court. State family court Judge Shower, who I had for 4 years, who wouldn't relinquish the case, who wouldn't step down, sued her staff and sued court administration and eventually sued her in federal court in front of Judge Karras, and lost on the case, but on the appeal, won a decision ordering the ADA accommodations that we just mentioned that were wrongfully denied. Now think about that, Maryann. A judge who is sworn to be fair and unbiased, Judge Michelle Shower, reads a neuropsych report from Columbia University, sees a report from ENTs and hearing specialists that my hearing is impaired 30%, have ringing in the ear with a occipital neuralgia and a neurostimulator that's on the side of my chest that rings past my left ear, and decides that, no, I'm not going to allow you to have a tape recorder. No, you can't turn in your iPad. No, you can't even bring your own person to transcribe notes. No, you can't bring in a note taker. No, you can't have real-time transcription because I think you're faking your disabilities. And Mr. Fishman, your statements that you can't remember because you have post-concussion syndrome belie the record. You have no problem telling me how you enjoyed your kids at Epcot and your son Sky entertaining all the guests, eating sushi with his chopsticks at 3 years old, and your son Aiden making miso soup in different cups, and all the Japanese tourists asking to take pictures of the kids and I having fun 2 years ago. But when I asked you why you brought the kids home 5 minutes late last week, you look at me with a smile and you say you can't remember. You remember when you want to. And then, of course, Judge Shower put me in jail for 3 weeks because she says I was faking my memory and hearing. In jail, obviously, I was put in the jail hospital. I have 2 implants, 2 neurostimulators. They determine I'm permanently disabled. My neurostimulators, if they go through a magnet, walking like TSA security, can explode. The ones in jail are even stronger magnetic, so I don't go through them. They explode through heat. So here you have a situation where the jail nurse and the doctor marked down hearing impairment, cognitive impairment, all my disabilities, which also include cubital tunnel syndrome, means my nerves in my left elbow and hand are weakened to the point where I can't hold a pen, so I can't take my own notes. And here we have a judge not allowing my ADA advocate, not allowing a note taker. But when my ex-wife wants to bring everyone in from her nonprofit, let's make believe there's some false domestic abuse, in, she can bring 18 people with 4 of them taking notes. And of course, she doesn't have a physical disability. This is family court. This is why we need cameras in court. Isn't it amazing, Maryann, how they just will say, no, you can't have meaningful communication because Fishman, you're going to lose no matter what.
And people don't realize this, that family court is an illegitimate courtroom. It should just be abolished.
You
I don't
said
know.
it. You said there's no checks and balances. So
Correct.
what I did for those 3 weeks in the hospital is that obviously lots of my advocates wrote to the court. Obviously, lots of my doctors. Obviously, I had access to the jail doctor who gave me a note saying I can't go through any metal detectors. And obviously, I had the nurse protecting me. In the jail hospital in Westchester County, the nurse runs the shift, and the nurse would be told by the guards, "We're going to take Marc Fishman to rec with the other prisoners." And I had this big Jamaican nurse says, "You see that butt? You see Fishman's butt?" She says, "That's my butt. He don't go anywhere without me." And the guard said, "No. I'm ordered to take him outside." She says, "You want to make something about it right now? Because I'm going to take you down." Fishman, go to you. Yes, nurse. Yes, nurse. So, for the first 6 days, Maryann, I had no outdoor weather. I had no rec until the guards, between nurse shifts, between 2 and 3 a.m., 6 of them said, Fishman, we really feel bad. We're going to take you outside between the nurse shifts because, there's no fresh air. It stinks in here stuff. I said, thank you. And he said, we're going to go with you because, we want some fresh air too. But we understand the nurse has been, overly protective. I said, look, I appreciate anything anyone does here. I don't ask for anything, and I just want to be left to myself. So, guards and people were mostly decent in that time period. I took my chance with my 3-inch pencil and little rule book to start writing my federal lawsuit, pro se, against the court system. And I'll give a hint to all your readers. I wrote it with the intention of not being dismissed within the first 6 months. I encourage everyone, all Maryann's viewers, everyone seeking discrimination, civil rights, disability, other titles, write your lawsuit and keep redrafting it in a way that it does not get dismissed in the first 6 months. Because if you don't get dismissed, and if you survive motion to dismiss from the other side, you'll get your chance over a period of time. My case was 2.5 years to prove your case to the judge, identify other discrimination, and then obviously use that time period to get valuable discovery the way I have to help your cause. So when people say, what do you mean, Mark? What do you mean? Well, I said, I didn't sue the judge. I sued Office of Court Administration, New York State. That's basically an office of state. They said, why'd you do that? Well, the judge is immune. Let's face it. Even if the judge is not immune under the ADA, which Maryann, you and I have discussed over 10 times, there's no immunity on the ADA Rehabilitation Act for a judge. But ladies and gentlemen, find a judge who's going to tell you that another judge has no immunity. And that judge is going to look in the mirror and say, oh my God, what if someone sues me? Of course we have to have immunity. So in the beginning, we did not sue Judge Shower. We sued Office of Court Administration, and we took out all the salacious parts of the transcripts, all the times that Judge Shower and her cohorts threatened to jail me, all the times they said I wasn't disabled, and their orders to deny the accommodation saying I didn't prove I was disabled. No, Marc Fishman did not prove he was disabled. My doctors did. And some of the doctors, you made me pay $169,000 to evaluate me. Hearing impairment, memory impairment, nerve impairment, 8 implants, metal hip, wires in head, wires in chest. But Shower says, you look fine, so you're not disabled. Oh, really? What does a disabled person look like?
Yeah.
Most disabilities are invisible, right, Maryann?
Right. Hey, I've had a heart attack, and the child support judge, Judge Elizabeth Kelly, didn't even care when I handed her the notes from God, the cardiologist. She wanted a letter from my family doctor who did fill it out, but she said, that's the only reason. She said, that's the only reason that's keeping you out of jail today. And I thought, gee, I just gave you notes from God. But anyway, continue.
Isn't that amazing what happened to you? And that's exactly how the setup was. So Judge Shower and her cohort, Magistrate Jordan, who wouldn't accept I'm disabled and couldn't work, they both made me hire a traveling notary and take my driver, because with traumatic brain injury, they took away my license 2 years, medical revocation, New York State. They know you got wires in your head. They don't want you driving. Okay. And I had to go to 28 doctors and certify their reports under oath because they didn't have a notary to bring it back to Magistrate Jordan and Judge Shower in 8 trans files that I couldn't carry. So I had to hire one of my workers to carry to prove to them that the reports were certified. I spent $1,100 over a week to take a traveling notary to 28 sets of doctors. This was in 2017, 18. But according to Judge Shower and her cohorts in Westchester and the appellate division, before I got my order, July 16, 21, in the federal Second Circuit, Marc Fishman was not disabled because he didn't prove it. No, just one of those doctor's reports proved it. The sleep apnea one that says I have severe obstructive sleep apnea, can't breathe without a neurostimulator, a tongue stimulator that buzzes my tongue out at night. Okay. Marc Fishman has severed nerves in the back of his neck, occipital neuralgia. Okay. He does not have normal nerves. He has cubital tunnel syndrome, can't hold a pen. Okay. He has walking impairment. Okay. He has AFib, irregular heartbeat. He has hypocholesterolemia. We can go on and on. We have tinnitus ringing the ear. Tinnitus or tinnitus is the largest disability veterans have filed for Afghanistan and Iraq veterans. The 3M earplugs were defective. There's a class action lawsuit. They were given out by the government, as well as other things by the government. Weren't honest. They made people have ringing ears, tinnitus. So Maryann, Judge Shower and her magistrate for finances and her staff had 28 certified reports from my doctors, in addition to the certified reports that they got from their quote unquote forensics. Marc has a hearing impairment. Marc relies on neurostimulators and electric stimulation so he could walk. Without his neurostimulator for occipital neuralgia and his traumatic brain injury, Marc needs to go on a walker. My vertigo and my tinnitus are so loud, I can't focus. I can't stand still. I have pain and ringing, and I can't drive. With the stimulator on, which is on 24/7, and I'm on my second stimulator, had it replaced twice. Okay, I can be a functioning person. With reasonable accommodations, a lot of us can excel. But no, according to Judge Shower, okay, Marc is Frankenstein, because instead of taking proactive action to put in 2 neurostimulators to get off opioids, which I was on for 8 months post my 2013 accident, Shower said, you're a monster, because who does and puts these implants in? There must be something wrong with you. Have you done your 19th evaluation? No, Your Honor, I can't afford to do it anymore. I spent $169,000 and I can't afford to do it anymore, and I shouldn't have to do it anymore. No. Because proof of disability is minimal under the ADA.
Right.
But for Marc Fishman's case, no. Bring your traveling notary, 28 sets of records. So, ladies and gentlemen, fast forwarding to the point I told Maryann while I was in jail writing this, we put together all the points, and we wanted to make the federal lawsuit under 50 pages, okay, but use exhibits showing the disability, obviously. We sued Office of Court Administration. I then contacted the clerk of the court saying I'm getting these additional threats from the court about note takers, okay, because by that time, the court said, we'll give you a note taker, but we want to approve it in advance because your ex-wife is objecting to every note taker you bring because she's going to call him as a witness. Typical. A witness for what? Right. She never called any of them as a witness. So they would say to me, bring 3 note takers. You know what? Bring 3 note takers so we could choose which one we're going to have. Oh, really? How about you just provide a note taker the way Colorado or California or Nevada does? Oh, no, we don't do that. You know, you got to bring your own note taker. But if your ex-wife objects and says we're going to call as a witness, then we can't have her here. I said, she never called any as a witness. What was she called as a witness for? Matter of fact, why are you asking my ex-wife about my accommodation? My accommodations are private and privileged between the court and I. My accommodations have no bearing on adversarial proceeding. My accommodations requests cannot be used against me. And of course, Maryann, they don't like that. So as I said, after we wrote the 6-month lasted lawsuit, I take that back. We lost the lawsuit, lasted 2.5 years. And we had our first hearing, you know, with Judge Ken Karras, which was, as I just said, 6 months after I filed it. So it was in June of 18 for a lawsuit I filed in January of 2018, okay, against Office of Court Administration. And the judge brought me in to explain. He said, Mr. Fishman, I've gotten these notes from the magistrate and from Judge Shower that they're threatening to jail you if you don't bring a note taker for them to choose. Why don't you bring multiple note takers? Your Honor, I'm not working. I brought 1 note taker. Okay, I've asked them for the accommodation. They keep on telling me that if I don't bring a neutral note taker, I don't even know what a neutral note taker is because, quite frankly, my ex-wife says she's going to subpoena everyone. But why is my ex-wife being asked about the accommodation? And then the
Yeah.
judge would say, Mr. Fishman, she hasn't denied a note taker. She just wants one that's impartial. Your Honor, she's denied 9 of them. What is impartial? Um, you know, and the court says, I don't think the judge has denied the note taker. Oh, really? Your Honor, can I read her order? Just let me read to her the order of Judge Shower. The order of Judge Shower says that Mr. Fishman cannot bring in a note taker or someone to tape record court proceedings. Okay, then it's signed Michelle Shower and sealed. I said, Your Honor, we tried to appeal it, but they don't allow interim appeals. I said, Judge Shower won't give me a final order. And now I can't get into court to modify because I have no note taker. Okay. And this goes round and round. And, the judge looks at office court administration. You keep on saying that he was not denied a note taker, but I'm reading this. Her order says she's denied a note taker. Oh, but that's not what he meant. What she meant is a note taker who's a third party witness in the case. I said, Your Honor, I have traumatic brain injury and I have my note taker here. Thank you for giving me accommodation and thank you for letting me come to court to prepare a half hour earlier. I have my pals here. The order doesn't say a note taker is denied because it's a witness. It just says note taker denied. So why do I have to think she'll prove a note taker when she's denied 9 of them? And then the judge looks at court administration. What do you have to say about that? He submitted 9 requests for a note taker with different names, different people. Half of these don't work for him or for his doctors. Why can't he bring in a note taker? Well, it's our position he can bring in a note taker, but the ex-wife has the position to review or veto it. Veto what, Your Honor? I wasn't disabled when I was married. We divorced in 2012. My car accident was 2013, where I was ran by a van in front of the school.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge then, Maryann, starts reading the decision where we're expecting he could be dismissing the case. And he starts reading it. He says, Mr. Fishman, it's very clear you're disabled under the ADA. It's very clear that you've alleged discrimination. It's very clear that you are a dedicated parent. You want to see your kids. It's very clear this court doesn't have jurisdiction over family court. But this court is limited to what it can do. Okay. And then he stops reading. Maryann, there's 3 pages in front of him. He stops reading. And he says, but Mr. Fishman, I think you've made a prima facie case. Would you like to amend your lawsuit? Oh, yes, Your Honor. I'd like to amend it. And he goes to court administration. Do you have a problem with him amending? Yeah, you have to dismiss right away. What about a motion to dismiss? Your motion to dismiss is premature because I didn't give you permission to motion to dismiss. So you can't make a motion to dismiss. I'm not going to read your motion to dismiss, but I will let you know when you have permission to file your motion to dismiss. Mr. Fishman, how much time do you need? Your Honor, I appreciate you having my note taker here, and I appreciate you bringing us in at 9 o'clock at night. I know Your Honor's schedule is very busy. I need 30 days. I'm having some bleeding, and I just had an infection in my stimulator, and, I need 30 days. He says, I don't have a problem with that. Office court administration, you have a problem with that? Yeah, Your Honor, we have a problem because we want our motion to dismiss heard. He goes, excuse me, court. This is federal court. I said, this is the courtroom of Judge Ken Karras. I decide when and if you can file a motion to dismiss. And your motion to dismiss didn't have my permission, so it is not filed. You do not have my permission. I will let you know when and if you have my permission. Mr. Fishman, you have your 30 days. Please give it to Lisa Evans, opposing counsel. And I will see you both in the future. So, Maryann, the reason I mention this is, again, the judge basically said he couldn't give me the relief I needed against office court administration. So it allowed me to amend the lawsuit to include the non-judicial staff members that physically denied access to my note takers to the courtroom. Because, Maryann, regardless if the note taker is going to be called as a witness, and by the way, what the hell does a note taker who's never been in my case have to be called as a witness? Well, you know why. They don't want you to have notes because they know your traumatic brain injury is pretty bad. So you ain't going to understand what's saying. And let's remind everyone, Westchester Family Court, no court reporters. Back that we had audio recordings, take a year to get a transcript.
Oh,
You wouldn't know
that's
what
right.
happened.
And so the judge can't see that your ex is a personality disorder.
The judge in federal court is limited We all want judges to rush and give us our civil rights that the family court takes away. Unfortunately, with the way our system's written, federal court can't get involved in the majority of issues you and I and your viewers talk about.
Mm-hmm.
They can get involved in certain civil rights and certain ADA. And as you're aware, and we've talked about more than a dozen times, Congress has waived state sovereign immunity for disability discrimination. The case is Tennessee versus Lane in 2004, where state courts have no immunity for failing to provide access to the courts. And that was expanded to meaningful and effective communication to the courts. So let me repeat that. State courts and state court actors, which include judges, which include administrative staff, have no immunity for denying ADA accommodations. Now, some courts have interpreted that, well, is there animus? Is an intent? We just got a decision last week from the Supreme Court in a case. I think it was a Scott case. Okay, I'll get it for you to post your website. Basically, what it said in an education case is that the disabled party who was looking to prove discrimination in a school district, again, a government actor, a school, a court, a town hall, they're all government places and they have government actors, government officials, employees, that the state has no immunity for discrimination and that the party who's disabled does not need to prove intent. This has been argued over and over again because they say, well, the judge and the administrator didn't have intent to discriminate. I would argue this. It's irrelevant what the intent was. Now, I could say the intent of Judge Shower and Judge Jordan, Judge Petri, some of the terrorizing judges I've had, the intent was for me to lose no matter what. The intent was for me to be thrown in some jail cell and rot, and the intent was never to see my kids again. But, Maryann, you and I have discussed it several times. You were put in jail. Okay. It's a very scary place for me to put myself in Michelle Shower or Susan Capicci or David Zuckerman's head as a judge and say what their intent was. I'd be scared as hell. The intent in a disability discriminating judge's mind? Oh, my God. I'd probably have 10 heart attacks. Why would I even try to imagine discriminating against the most vulnerable, the disabled population, right? So intent's irrelevant. In the Scott case from last week, the court was unanimous, 9-0, that it's irrelevant whether the school district intended to discriminate against this person with epilepsy, who'd had seizures, who couldn't use public facilities, needed an altered schedule. Intent's irrelevant. If you fail to accommodate after knowing someone is disabled and you're a state subject to Title II of the ADA, you are discriminating. And so that's big because a lot of the circuits, these appeals courts, like the Second Circuit, before then was saying, no, you need to prove intent. Like Office of Court Administration, you need to prove intent. Mr. Fishman can't prove that Michelle Shower intended to block note taker. Yes, I can. I have 2 witnesses. Her staff, Court Attorney D'Ambrosio, blocked my note taker. There are 3 people there. There were 9 of us witnesses. We thought she blocked, you can't come in. There are 2 sets of doors in Yonkers. There's a camera there. Of course it was intense. Oh, and then they say, oh, well, she's a judge's attorney. She has immunity. No, she does not have judicial immunity. She might have state sovereign immunity, Maryann. She does not have judicial immunity. And that's the other thing I encourage your viewers. It's very hard to pass judicial immunity when you're writing a federal lawsuit. Look to pursue the lowest fruit on the vine. Like I've sued cops and been more successful that have discriminated. The cops, state cops, have qualified immunity. That's lowest. You have qualified on the bottom, then you have state, then you have judicial. Judicial is almost impossible to bypass. State is hard, but qualified immunity, that's the lowest fruit of the vine. The qualified immunity, these cops and these low-level clerks and some of the secretaries in the courtroom and some of the administrators, some court attorneys, they only have qualified immunity. There is no judicial immunity. It doesn't extend from the judge. Now, some people say, well, if the court attorney was doing what the judge said, then, there's judicial immunity. I didn't catch the judge telling Michelle D'Ambrosio block my note taker. And quite frankly, it's irrelevant. She blocked it. She's an officer of state. She's an attorney. She's admitted to the bar. You have training on ethics and accommodating disabled people. It's no different than blocking a person in a wheelchair. It's no different than blocking a diabetic from bringing insulin to the courtroom. It's no different than blocking a service dog. You blocked my note taker. This is after Judge Shower issued the order saying you couldn't have one. But court administration said you could. But court administration said, well, if Judge Shower denies it, the only thing goes to the appellate division. the appellate division with Hector LaSalle that doesn't recognize civil rights. You know, Hector LaSalle runs the second department of Brooklyn. Hector LaSalle said, okay, in an appeal that I did in 2019, that I did not prove I was disabled and was not entitled to a note taker or real-time transcription when appealing Judge Shower, said I hadn't proven I was injured with a major bodily impairment, and that my disabled son, who's autistic, Jonah, did not need an advocate because he had an attorney. His attorney has no training on disabilities, no training in disability advocacy. The attorney admits it, says needs an advocate. Why can't he have an advocate? It's free. Don't pick one that I give, pick anyone. No. Well, that order turned into the federal Second Circuit order on July 16, 21, because as these things are ongoing, we're continuously amending the lawsuit, learning the court. And the federal Second Circuit clerk, okay, ordering communication accommodations for me against Michelle Shower, D'Ambrosio, her court attorney, Judge Oliver Gordon, Judge Greenwald, Nancy Barry, the chief executive, Dan White's the chief ADA executive, the court system, the state. And the state of New York had 90 days to appeal that. You and I get 30. They get 90, and they didn't. It's law. So now they say they will give the accommodation. I said, okay, I went back to the appellate division. What about reversing all decisions? Oh, no, we're not going to reverse any decisions. You based every decision against me, denying me 50-50 access to my kids after I had that in divorce, based on the fact that my ex-wife and her attorneys lobbied you I wasn't disabled. Number one, they're not allowed to use public funds. She has public attorneys to advocate for that fact. And thankfully, you and I and our viewers have Doge that now can recoup the legal fees paid by the government to these nonprofits because they couldn't use government money to oppose my note taker, but they did.
Hello,
did.
Pam Bondi.
So. Exactly. You know, if you are a nonprofit attorney, you cannot use federal funds to oppose civil rights. If you took grants from the government, all these nonprofits, including my ex's Legal Services Hudson Valley and Hudson Valley Justice Center, took federal funds. They can't discriminate. So all these appeals they made were illegal. You could say you don't like me. You could talk about my father. You can't talk about me not being a good father because I need a note taker, or I need real-time transcription, or I have an aide, or I have a driver who sees my kids. It takes me to see my kids. So that's what I'm saying. Getting back to the heart of what I'm saying, and I'm trying to focus, Maryann. One of my difficulties with my disability is when you're writing a federal lawsuit. Everyone has asked me, write it as broad as possible in the beginning. I sued Office of Court Administration only because I only wanted one defendant. So a judge can look me in the eye, a federal judge can look me in the eye as a disabled person with the implant on the left, the implant on the right, the wires in the elbow, the metal hip, and tell me, Judge, I am begging you for relief under the ADA and Rehabilitation Act. Help me. And a judge could say, you know what, Mr. Fishman, would you like to amend your lawsuit? Yes, Your Honor. And then we put in the court administrator, Nancy Barry. And then we put in D'Ambrosio blocked me access. And then we put in Dan White's rights that you can only have a note taker under certain terms, but it's subject to the judge's approval. And if she doesn't approve it, you can appeal. I can appeal the denial of note taker, take 3 years to Brooklyn for them to tell me I didn't prove I was disabled. My doctors proved I was disabled. By the way, Maryann, you know what we found out? 28 certified records of certified disability from 28 of my doctors that I had 24 surgeries on and 8 implants never made it to the appellate division, even though the appellate division was supposedly sent the whole record. You know why it never made it there? Because Judge Shower kept it in her courtroom. Oh, really? I didn't know Judge Shower can keep things in her courtroom. I didn't know that the appellate division doesn't get the whole record.
Isn't that fraud upon the court?
It is fraud. It is fraud. It's illegal. But again, judges protect judges. Judge Shower did 8 years at the appellate division in Brooklyn. Does anyone think I'm ever going to win an appeal in Brooklyn? I haven't yet. Won in federal court. Shouldn't have had to. So let's fast forward to the retaliation. Okay, so now that we discussed how to do a federal lawsuit, you keep on amending it and ask the judge to amend it as he narrows down the focus. Once I was allowed to amend it, I gave specific details with evidence of how D'Ambrosio blocked the note taker entry. I didn't say she blocked the note taker who was black, green, purple. I didn't say she blocked the note taker who was a relative. Wasn't. It was a third party note taker. She blocked it. Gave affidavits from people watching her. You know, the judge said, Mr. Fishman's made a prima facie case. The note taker was blocked. There is no record in the transcript of the shower saying, questioning the note taker, is she a relative or is she going to testify? Just blocked. You can't block a note taker. That's discrimination. That's denying me meaningful and effective communication. Because that without a court reporter, which they wouldn't give me as accommodation, and without transcript, which they wouldn't give me a time, now we get a transcript, Maryann, right? That the only way I'm going to find out what happened with all the confusion of being in court for 9 hours and everyone moving around and my stimulator going on and off and ringing in my ear is to have someone independently take notes so I can figure out what the hell went on and read them over and over again, particularly when I was suffering from cognitive impairment, 17, 18, 19, to try to get a grasp. Okay? Denied. So you had no chance. You knew there was going to be something said you didn't remember. You knew there was going to be something that they'd use you against, and Judge Shower did. She said, Mr. Fishman, I told you there was no gift giving between March and July of 16, and you sent 22 gifts. Your Honor, your court order. She says, I don't care what my court order says. Your Honor doesn't care what court order says? I said, I have it right here. And I'm going to read it. No, you can't read it. Well, I'm going to read it anyway. Okay, it says that I could send gifts on holidays as an exception to your order of protection. And she takes the microphone, she moves it away, Maryann.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, Mr. Fishman, maybe in your effing family, okay, Easter, Passover, Memorial Day, July 4th, and the kid's birthday are holidays. But in my courtroom, they're not. 3 weeks in jail.
Wow, you never told me this part.
Never got into the transcript. And what happens when my transcriber, who was I hired from the court, charged me like $1,200 for a transcript, because now the transcript price has come down. They return immediately 8 months. He put in inaudible, because he heard, shh, right? And then Judge Shower moves to have him terminated. His name was Alan Kachowski as the transcriber. She said, he's not hearing the courtroom because you could interpret all the words. Oh, interpret all the words? You move the mic away?
Okay, so that's why they should have tamper-proof mics. Cameras in the courtroom, tamper-proof mics.
And independent recordings that
Yes.
judges can't modify.
Right.
So then Judge Shower, in November, of that year, after she put me in jail, brought all the attorneys together, wouldn't let me attend with my AD advocate, says, we are going to hear the recordings ourselves and certify for records. You can't do that. You can't change the official record. I said, I'd like to attend with my AD advocate. You have no right to. I have no right to. So she files with court administration to fire Alan Kachowski. She did. He was a transcriber I used for years. He's on the list, right? Whatever. They fired him. They said, your transcripts are inaudible by illegally editing out what Judge Shower said to protect Judge Shower. Right? And this is who we have as a judge. So, Maryann, here we are. And obviously, after Judge Karras fasting forward, when I had the note taker, Office of Court Administration said, you'll never see Judge Shower again. You'll never have her. Okay. You'll get this order. You can appeal, because the judge said, where's his final order? You'll get it. Okay. So we got the order. We appealed it. And then I immediately went back to family court and said, I'm fine for restoration of my 50-50 access. I've been discriminated against. Okay. My federal lawsuit is an example of that. Block the note taker. Okay. And I'd like a hearing with a new judge. Well, my appeal's going on. Maryann, the next 7 judges immediately recused themselves. I never met them. Never met them. Judge Hahn, I recused myself. Judge Katz, I recused myself. Okay. Judge Gutierrez, I recused myself. I got these notices, right? They eventually sent me to Judge Oliver Gordon, okay, who I made an application for unsupervised visits, and had an appointment with her in the morning to bring in my supervisor, okay, to testify that I don't need unsupervised visits, that I'm a great dad, and with accommodations, I'm going to accomplish anything. I'm not greater than anyone who's not disabled. So Judge Oliver Greenwald, as retaliation, defend Judge Shower and all the other people in protest my federal, took my 9:15 a.m. appointment and saw me at 3:45 right before court closed at 4. Oh, Ms. Fish, we have no time for any of this. No, we can't have this, and we're sorry. Oh, yeah, you were waiting outside with your $100 an hour, your supervisor. Oh, well, sorry. No, we can schedule this in the future. Your request is denied. Huh? What do? We amended the federal lawsuit with Judge Ken Karras. Back then it wasn't working. So what happened? Marshall served Judge Oliver Gordon. And we asked for a recusal. She recused. She said, Mr. Fishman, marshals came to my house. You sent marshals. I said, Judge Gordon, you need to recuse. You're biased against me. You're defending a disability discriminating Judge Shower and a court system which is discriminated. You guys all know that I can't have a fair forum here. You need to recuse. My supervisor was about to tell you in deep depth about all the visits, in addition to the reports you saw in your letter. You need to recuse because you have discriminated, retaliated. And under the Attorney General Enforcement Regulations, Title II of the ADA, 28 CFR 35.134, 28 CFR 35.134, the Attorney General Enforcement Regulation, the ADA, you cannot retaliate if someone has made a protest against state actors and state government when their civil rights are violated. I'm asking for recusal. I recuse Mr. Fishman while she's holding up the papers she was served with. And the attorney for the children says, you can't recuse. Everyone's already recused. You're going to give him what he wants. I said, excuse me, you're out of order. Give me what I want. You're talking about meaningful and effective communication and suing a judge in federal court for your civil rights. What I want everyone who's disabled to have equal access to family court. And if you can't give equal access to the disabled, to those of us with disabilities who are lucky to be alive, in my case, hit by a van, speeding on a downhill, 24 surgeries, 8 implants, pain. Okay? If you can't give me access, you can't give anyone access, because lots of my disabled friends with dementia and Parkinson's, they can't talk. Some of my other disabled friends, they don't have an arm. Okay, my friend Chris, he has brain bleeds every 3 months. And they begged me to sue. You know why? Because they all lost their kids. They had no chance. They said, Fishman, you got a mouth. You got a big Jewish mouth. I said, I'm afraid. And I said, I'm afraid. And I cried. I cried in co-concussion therapy. Post-concussion, I cried. I can't. I'm afraid I can't do it alone. You have to. You do it for us. 2 of them died.
Oh.
Brain bleed, stroke.
And these judges don't care.
So we continue to fight, Maryann.
Right.
Continue to fight. So on July 16, 21, we got the order for the accommodations. It was during COVID. We went back saying I'd like to get unsupervised visits. I'd like to be able to talk to my kids without a supervisor. No. Denied. Okay. Now they made Judge Petri the family court judge because they got to criminalize your parenting. They got to invent the crime. Oh, invent the crime. You going to stop, Fishman? No. So the invented crime was, while I was at supervised visitation December 18, was that Marc Fishman violated an order of protection. What order of protection? I had a visitation order with a carve out for an order of protection. No, he violated. He went on the ex-wife's house's property during his visit. I did what? It's 4 houses away. My disability driver, waiting for my autistic son, Jonah. The supervisor's going there. It's on the 15th of the month. My visits are the 1st and 15th, 10 to 5. I didn't go on the property. The supervisor comes back, says she's not giving you Jonah for the visits. I said, let's go to the police station. We go to the police station, New Rochelle. It's Marc Fishman. Here's my aide. Here's my supervisor. Here's my disability card. Like police report that my ex-wife is denying me visitation. I'd like to get a police report number. I'd like to make a statement. No, you can wait for the officer. Excuse me? I said, I'm disabled. I can't stand very long. I'd like to just get a police report number. I'd like someone to make a call to my ex-wife to facilitate visitation. She can bring my son here, give it to the supervisor. But I don't hear too well, so I need my supervisor, my aide near me. And I like an accommodation for you to allow my aide to help me interpret these complicated, court orders. Oh, wait for the officer. Okay. So the officer comes and it's our Lane Schlesinger. Okay, Lane Schlesinger, who basically just starts off by saying, you're accused of violating order of protection. I said, no, I have visitation. There is no order of protection preventing visitation. Your ex-wife says that's a complete stay away order. Huh? I said, well, let my aide show you the papers, go to the car, to get the record showing that I have an aide. And obviously there's a visitation order, so it can't be a complete stay away because there's visitation. Well, it's a complete stay away. Okay. Did you get this order? I need my special reading glasses. By that time, he separated me from my aide, took away my medical bag with my remote control for my stimulator. I said, I can't read without my special glasses and my stimulator. I said, give me a pen and paper. I'll describe what the visitation order is. I said, here's my brain injury card. It says, okay, call my neurosurgeon call my father, call my therapist. They'll tell you the accommodations I need. Need a note taker, need large print court orders, speak tangentially, confused with little print. I need a larger print of that order. Oh, I did not. I don't have to read those. I said, can you bring my aide in? You blocked her from coming in. No. I said, well, here's my implant card. It says, call my neurosurgeon, take him to the hospital. No. I'll be right back, Ms. Fishman. So denied accommodations. Okay, I'm there with an aide. Okay, and then he comes back in and basically brings a visitation order, 28 pages. And he says to my supervisor, is that you? Yeah. And then he says, this talks about Mr. Fishman. This is 28 pages. I haven't read it. But can you tell me what this means? Well, it's his visits. He gets twice a month visits. And I supervise. I don't understand. I said, well, why don't you go bring in my aide? She'll explain it to you. We have a cognitive aide here. There's a court order pointing her. No, Ms. Fishman, we're going to have you read it. I said, I can't read it. It says in tiny, small print. I said, I can't read this stuff. I said, give me a pen. I'll try to write you no, I'm going to have you read it. I said, officer, I'm not going to be able to read this. Can I get my medical bag? At least give my reading that. No, start reading. I started reading it. Had a major neuralgia attack. My face drooped, fell down to the ground, major headache, turned red. He goes back out. He comes back. We're arresting you for violating an order of protection. But good news is we're going to release you on bail. It's normally $1,500, but we went through your wallet. You got $300. I said, yes, for the supervisor. Oh, we're going to take that. And we're going to release you on bail. We're going to hold you for a while we process the paper. I said, what's the charge? Just go in the back. No, Maryann, just go in the back.
So scary.
Said, we can't touch you. I said, why don't you go touch me? Can I have my aide come to me? No. Okay. Just pull out your pockets. Oh yeah, you don't have anything. Just go in the back. Go in the back. I get taken to a cell. I leave the cell open. I'm standing on sitting on the slab. I'm shivering at that time because they had taken away my jacket, and it's December 15th, and my implants are sweating, and I have no fleece, and I'm shaking like this, and I have my jacket. No. Okay. It kicked the door closed. Okay. This is Officer Schlesinger. Fast forward, we sued Officer Schlesinger in January of 18 for failure to accommodate on the ADA Rehabilitation Act, failing to allow my aid, failing to give me a meaningful and effective communication, false arrest, malicious prosecution, making up a crime, civil rights violations. And guess what, Maryann? We survived 6 years and 2 months, before the judge dismissed the case. During the 6 years and 2 months, we got the video and audio, which wasn't available in my criminal trial, where they convicted me of not going on a property with an order of protection that I never got, that had no distance to stay away from the property, and had no allowance for visitation. An order of protection written up while Judge Shower jailed me for gifts in 2017. So fast forward, we get the video and audio. What does the audio say? Of course, that wasn't presented January 20th in advanced discovery. The audio says, his ex-wife's calling. My name is Jennifer Solomon. I want to call in a crime. My ex-husband is here, and there's no visit today. And they said, Miss, does your husband have a visitation order? No. And I said, is this order a stay-away order? This is the radio operator at the police. The video they didn't give us. The audio the DA said didn't exist. The audio of the police chief and all the subordinates said, no, there's no audio. The video wasn't working. There's no cameras. Miss Solomon, my ex-wife, Jennifer Solomon, do you have a complete stay-away order? Yes. I want to repeat again. You were talking about visitation before. Do you have a complete stay-away? I have a complete stay-away order. But my husband is 4 houses away. He's not on the property. Did he go on your property? No. Did he talk to you? No. Did he threaten you? No. Did he send you a text message? No. Did he mail you packs? No. No, but it's a complete stay-away order. The visitation was canceled. But I just want to know for record. I don't want him arrested because I need it for family court.
No, she needs your child support.
Sent there. What's that, Maryann?
She needs your child support, so she didn't want you arrested. So you could pay that.
She wanted for family court. Oh, but the video doesn't exist. The audio doesn't exist. My ex-wife knew that every order of protection from Judge Shower was subject to visitation. We had a certified transcript, okay, the unedited version, and it said from Judge Shower, I'm issuing an order of protection. However, I'm continuing the visitation order, and your order of protection is subject to visitation. But when a judge wants to convince you with a jury, he don't care.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
So after 6 witnesses testified in January 20, without the video and without the audio, let's talk about the video. What's on the video? After Officer Schlesinger did his little stunt, denied my aid, denied me access, denied me note taker, denied my assistance, denied me my auxiliary aids of my stimulator remote to adjust the frequency of my stimulation, which was buzzing my head, without my reading glasses, without pen and paper, without calling a doctor, told my aide 3 times while he was processing bail that he took out of my wallet. You know, I don't think Marc Fishman committed a crime, quote unquote, on camera. Maryann, the cameras that don't exist, that don't work, then no one's recording. And then he says also around noon, okay, I don't think Mr. Fishman had intent to commit a crime. I don't think Mr. Fishman knows he committed a crime, but I really don't think a crime occurred. So when my attorney asked him, again in federal court, under federal deposition, in the courthouse, where Officer Schlesinger didn't have his badge, didn't have his gun, didn't have his badge, no bullets, right? Just regular person. Okay. The question was from my attorney to Officer Schlesinger, okay, did you recall telling Mr. Fishman's aide, Isabel Bolivar, 4 times that he didn't have intent to commit a crime, didn't commit a crime, and you didn't witness a crime? Oh, I can't hear it. Oh, you can't? Okay. Court reporter, we're going to have the video blown up. Okay, we're going to put captioning on it. No. We're going to play it again. Okay, Officer Schlesinger, is that your voice? You know, it might have been my voice. Oh, you want a little louder? Okay, we're going to give you the accommodations you didn't give to Fishman. Okay? Lay louder ever. Officer Schlesinger, is that you saying that Mr. Fishman didn't have intent to commit a crime, didn't commit a crime? Yeah, it was me, but I was trying to be empathetic to the disability aide and trying to be empathy to the situation. You were trying to be empathetic to disability aide? Why did you arrest Mr. Fishman? You didn't have intent. You just said he didn't commit a crime. You said he didn't know he committed a crime. In New York, in order to commit a crime, you have to know you committed a crime. Did he go on the property? No, he didn't go on the property. But your arrest report says he went to the property. Well, I was trying to be empathetic. So you're admitting you lied in your arrest report? No, it's true. He went there and he wasn't allowed to be there. It wasn't a visit. I direct you to page 81 of the transcript of the supervisor. Can you please read what it says from Ann Elliott? My question, did Mr. Fishman commit a crime that day? What did it say? No, he did not. So Ann Elliott's saying, no, he didn't. But you arrested Mr. Fishman. You had the aide there, right? You had the supervisor. Okay, when my attorney says, can you read the next line? When he asked Ann Elliott, did Mr. Fishman or anyone commit a crime that day that you saw? No. Okay. Officer Schlesinger, why did you let Mr. Fishman go home for $300 if you're arresting him for a serious domestic violence issue of violent order protection? Well, it was my supervisor's decision, it wasn't mine. So your supervisor allowed him to go home. What normally happens when someone's accused of violating a visitation order and it's a Saturday morning? Oh, they stay the whole weekend until they see the judge at noon on Monday. Why didn't Mr. Fishman stay? Well, it's because Mr. Fishman was ill and was important. So Mr. Fishman was disabled. I didn't say that. Oh, so Mr. Fishman is not disabled. No, I didn't say that. Of course he's disabled. Wait a second. Then why did you deny the accommodation? Why couldn't the aide help him? Did you read the 28-page order? No, I didn't read it. You had 28-page single space. Do you have a reading disorder? No. Was Mr. Fishman a threat? Did you have to cuff him? No. Why didn't you read the order? Why didn't you bring a note taker in? Why didn't you have the aide in? Well, because it's obvious he committed a crime. He shouldn't have been there. Is he allowed visitation on the first visit? Yes, but the visitation canceled. Oh, it was canceled. Okay. Do you get anything in writing from the ex-wife saying it was canceled? No. But okay, Officer Sessions, you're accusing Mr. Fishman of texting with his daughter during the time of visit. Yeah, we know that's illegal. He can't text his daughter. The supervisor asked him to text his daughter to ask where the son was so she can pick up the son, and she's in the presence. So where's it violating it during the visit? It's called basic communication. And Mr. Fishman says he showed you this text from the supervisor. What does it say? It says, Ann Elliott, I'm writing to you again to find out if I have a visit on December 15th. It's Hanukkah. I miss my kids. I want to hug them, wish them a happy Hanukkah. I want to give them gifts. And Ann Elliott replies, pick me up. I'll be downstairs outside my house at Dunkin' Donuts. And then she replies, I'm across the street waiting for your aide to pick me up. Officer Sessions, did you see this? You said you looked through his phone, you saw his messages. Oh, I didn't see his message. You didn't see his message? Well, Officer Sessions, his visit was confirmed. You're just saying the ex-wife says cancel visit. Did you see any visit canceled from the ex-wife? No. Did you see this? No. I just saw a text message to the daughter. Oh, those are after this message. Did you confiscate his phone and look through his message? Yes. So wait a second, I'm confused. You confiscated his phone, you looked through his messages. Okay, you still don't have him under arrest. You didn't read Miranda. You know his aide to read Miranda. You didn't give Miranda a card like it. He could understand what you were saying anyway because he's hearing impaired. You already said he's too ill. So now that you've seen this message, which you say you didn't saw before, you had the phone, what would you have done with a message confirming the visit? Oh, I would have asked Ann Elliott and I would have went back and investigated. You would have investigated. So now it's December 2023. We have a December 18th. You would have investigated? Really? Wow. What investigation? Seems you violated the rights of a disabled man. So let's fast forward, Maryann, because then we got to ask the boss, Robert Wensler. Okay, Mr. Wensler, did you let Mr. Fishman go home on $300 bail? Yes. Is it the normal policy that someone go home on bail? Okay, if they're accused of domestic violence on a Saturday morning, like you charged them for, criminal contempt, second degree? No, we keep them to the following Monday. You keep them to the following Monday. What is your procedure dealing with disabled people? We take them to the hospital. How close to the hospital to you? Oh, it's 5 blocks away. Okay. Did you take Miss Fisher to the hospital? No. Did he ask to go? Yeah. But I'm looking at your manual police procedure. It says you take someone to the hospital. They're disabled. See if they can communicate. Well, we didn't take him. I didn't think that was necessary. But you acknowledge he's disabled. Yeah, he looked in very poor health. That's why I let him go home with his aide. Wait a second. I'm confused. Mr. Fishman asked for a note taker to Officer Schlesinger. Okay, and asked for his pen and paper and his medical bag and to his note taker and his aide to describe to you the visitation order, 20 pages that Officer Schlesinger said he didn't read. You said he didn't read. You denied it. But now you're telling us that you released Mr. Fishman on bail for a domestic violence serious offense, but you don't do this for anybody else because you did it as an accommodation. Well, I wouldn't say it was an accommodation, Maryann. I would say it was just me having empathy for the situation. You just arrested a disabled man for violating an order of protection, which he didn't get, not looking at a visitation order, and you're saying you have empathy? Okay.
Scary.
Officer Wensler, I have a question for you. Weren't you concerned that, assuming Mr. Fishman committed this crime, which he didn't do, going on the property and go on, not getting the accommodation he didn't get, not getting his visit, and now not being able to see his kids for years, but assuming, all of this is true that you're alleging, what would have happened if Mr. Fishman, quote unquote, reoffended? Oh, I'd be in a lot of trouble. Was it your decision alone to release him or Officer Schlesinger's? It was my decision alone. So weren't you worried that someone could reoffend for not going on a property during a visit? I didn't see that as a possibility at all. 100%. Really? So what was the possibility that he offended in the first place? Oh, don't answer that question, attorney. Oh, really? He didn't offend in the first place. He didn't violate anything. You guys discriminate against disabled people. He came to you for help for a police report and to facilitate visitation. And because he's disabled, you guys, with the help of Judge Shower, who you called, and with the help of the DA, who you called, who told you just arrest him, don't go by a visit, just decide to unilaterally restrict a disabled man from his kids now for 5 years. Are you proud of yourself? Oh, don't answer that. Officer Schlesinger, isn't the procedure to take a disabled person to the hospital? Why don't you take him? I don't know. Officer Schlesinger, you just said that you don't release people for less than $1,500 in bail, but you said you went through Mr. Fishman's wallet. He didn't give you permission. You found $300. You took it. $300 bail. Isn't $300 a fifth of what the bail is? Yeah. Well, we let him out because, we felt that he's there with two women and they're vouching for him that he wouldn't reoffend. You mean they're vouching that he didn't offend in the first place, but you guys just made this whole dramatic thing up because you didn't want to take him to the hospital. Because if you took him to the hospital, you would have had to give him a note taker and his aide, and they would have described how the visit was actually court ordered.
So, did they ever give you your $300 back or did they steal it?
No, we got the $300 back, Maryann, and we got back a lot more. We got the Attorney General investigation of Officer Schlesinger in New Rochelle. Christmas Eve, December 24th, 24, going on for 3 years in the Law Enforcement Misconduct Unit. A complete rebuke, a complete condemnation that New Rochelle has no effective disciplinary or tracking disciplinary records against pattern malfeasance cop. Officer Schlesinger was dedicated pattern misconduct. And the person that referred him in January 22, within 2 years of my trial, was Officer Wensler. But they mentioned nothing to this to the federal deposition. We got this report in, Maryann, 3 weeks before my case was dismissed. So luckily, we get to now talk about it with the appellate division. We get to talk about mediation. We get to talk about it with you and others. The 11-page report on Officer Schlesinger's pattern misconduct, the only cop in Westchester pattern misconduct who writes false arrest reports, who doesn't obey his supervisors, who doesn't obey the rules, who has his own version of what justice is, okay, who fights with his fellow cops, who's disrespectful, who's rude, condescending, okay, who's a rogue cop, who abuses the system, and as Officer Robert Wensler wrote, because Maryann, like you, I don't know how to give up. You're my hero. We don't give up. We're going to continue to fight. I now have loads, over 5,000 pages of Officer Schlesinger's disciplinary records, because I won the fall challenge that the investigation with the Attorney General is a public investigation. Yes, fellow New Yorkers, if you have a rogue disability discrimination cop like former Officer Schlesinger, the Attorney General records and the police records of the investigation are not private. The law enforcement misconduct law developed from Floyd, okay, in 2021 is a public investigation. Those of us are entitled to the public records. Maryann, it only took 8 months, a bunch of state senators, state assemblymen, a bunch of threats, a bunch of letters to convince the Attorney General and the cops to release the FOIL, but they're finally releasing the FOIL. And what does the FOIL say? We knew Officer Schlesinger was a rogue disability discriminating cop in 2013. Officer Wensler wrote it up that he met with Officer Schlesinger and says if he doesn't change, he won't be a cop anymore. And that you have to show professionalism, patience, okay, to your community. And you are not to rush to judgment. And you to obey to the rule book that Wensler and Schlesinger obeyed, I would have been taken to the hospital. They said I was in poor health, Maryann. I was in poor health, volunteering in the police station, suffering with my own misery of a headache, burning eyes, a rash, chills, okay, suffering myself, standing and sitting, only in physical, total pain and agony. No threat to anybody, but they thought they could just pull a fast one. And, we can't have disabled fathers being fathers in Westchester. We can't have disabled people having rights. Let's work with Judge Shower and Marie D'Ambrosio and DA Scarpino, now DA Roca, now DA Cachese, and let's just bury the rights of a disabled man. Because he's never going to catch us. Well, guess what, Maryann? I have 2 batteries in my chest, and I charge them. And guess what? As my son Aiden said before I wasn't allowed to see him, I don't know why anyone picks on my daddy.
Aww.
My daddy's like Iron Man. And he comes, he loves us, he wants to be with us. And he charges his battery, and they just don't stop picking on him.
Oh.
Love you, Aiden. So, Maryann, yeah, we beat the FOIL denial from the Attorney General. We got the records. What does one of the FOIL requests say? Officer Schlesinger is a serial abuser as a cop. Officer Schlesinger is a game player. He shows up when he wants to. Officer Schlesinger fights with superior officers. Officer Schlesinger, okay, refuses to abide by superior directives. Officer Schlesinger issues false arrests against minorities and Black people. Officer Schlesinger doesn't know how to communicate with Black people. Officer Schlesinger doesn't know how to communicate with the public. What does it say in 23, Maryann? Copies every member of the police station. Before we depose Schlesinger, before we depose Wensler, a letter from Captain Molina. Officer Schlesinger is not allowed to engage with the public. Officer Schlesinger can only be in the radio room. He is not allowed to engage or speak to the public. All while they were complaining to the Attorney General, all while they were being deposed in my federal lawsuit, all saying that they gave us all discovery about his disciplinary records. And what does the Attorney General say? Tyler Nims, the chief of the Law Enforcement Misconduct Unit, and Simone Manigault, who won't take my calls. That's okay. You know, I'm used to retaliation. Maryann and I eat you people for lunch. We're nonviolent, but you know what? We're never going to give up. So, you know, what does it say? Oh, New Rochelle has no disciplinary procedures. New Rochelle has no procedures for tracking cops that violate law. New Rochelle has a rogue police system. New Rochelle combined disciplinary infractions officers last year. We found 32 of them, but many more happened. Let's talk about 4. So when we asked Tyler Nims and Simone Manigault, why don't you include me in the report? Because in all the other law enforcement misconduct reports, there's roughly 27 now, Maryann. They all talk about all the federal and state litigation against the cops. Why don't you come at it here? Well, Mr. Fishman, your case was too old. We only go back 2 years. Oh, you got the complaint in January 22. My trial was in January 20. That's 2 years. Why don't you put in there that Officer Schlesinger refused to sign the evidence disclosure? Because you didn't want to, because you were representing Judge Shower and Marie D'Ambrosio in federal court, and you think disabled people that are discriminated and antagonized and had our civil rights violated by cops don't get the same entitlement of relief and justice as non-disabled. But guess what? You got your records now. And guess what? Robert Wenzel kept on writing you. Oh, what's the status of the report? What's the status? When are you going to make a decision? Oh, here's 3 more complaints in 23 and 24. 3 more complaints? Those aren't in your report. Officer Schlesinger having other infractions. Officer Schlesinger getting into another infraction, which is of great interest to me, Maryann, because Officer Schlesinger was on a prison transport to county, and Officer Schlesinger had an altercation with another officer when they stopped at 7-Eleven. And what does it say, Maryann? Officer Schlesinger, before the altercation, took off his vest camera. Oh, gee whiz, don't you think my jury should have heard that? Don't you think the federal court should have heard that? That he now has a 4th instance of deactivating his camera. But you had the cameras, the other officers. And you saw how he really acts and really speaks and discriminates. And then you put him on desk duty. So Officer Schlesinger can be held accountable by you cops. Attorney General don't want to pick it up because then it'll help Mark with his lawsuit against Judge Shower and D'Ambrosio in the court system. We're not going to tell Mark about it. You know, we're going to be the dishonest Quinn law firm. Yeah, Maryann will face the Quinn law firm. That's the go-to law firm that defends cops in Westchester, New York City.
Like
and
Copland.
Marc Fishman's never going to get anywhere because he's disabled and he's not smart enough, resilient enough, tough enough. He don't have enough life left in him to be able to ever get this evidence. Oh, really? Maryann, like you, I don't sleep at night. I got headaches. I cry. I miss my kids. I get rashes. I bleed out at both ends. My ear hurts, back hurts, neck hurts. I'm 52. I hope I'll live to see my kids. You ain't ever getting me to stop fighting these cops and the corrupt judge. It ain't going to happen. And I feel blessed like you. I have a mouth, and I'm going to use it. And we got civil rights, and we got federal judges. So when you people think, oh, there's no evidence, you just got to plead guilty. Oh, you'll never see your kids. Oh, you're a convict. Oh, this stuff. Yeah. You going to give up now? No. You going to stop fighting? No. You going to stop advocating? No. Why? Well,
Perseverance pays off.
You said it. But Maryann, it's not just about me. It's not just about you. My sons are going to be 17, the youngest ones. My daughter just graduated Binghamton. Congratulations, Joanna, 21. My son, Jonah, is going to be 20 in November. I'm fighting for every other disabled parent and every other parent in New York. The system is unfair. It needs to be taken down. We're in the 21st century. We have cameras. You don't want to give it to us. We have camera footage. You don't want to give us, you don't want to give us radio footage. You say in New York, we're entitled to enhanced discovery in January 20. But yet enhanced discovery means the DA does a thorough investigation of the cop when the cop refuses to sign disclosure. Officer Schlesinger, within the 2-year period of her being referred to the Attorney General for the law enforcement, which the governor and Attorney General told my team and I that never existed. Oh, we're not investigating. Yeah, found it out middle of the night on the 24th of December when it became public. Okay, So you found out you're not going to investigate Fishman. Oh, because then he'll be able to reopen his federal lawsuit. Oh, then we could go down because we are disability discriminating members of government.
Mm-hmm.
It starts right at the top of Kathy Hochul, Letitia James, okay, discriminates. Okay, so Maryann, I'm pleased to report that yesterday, the 40-year career of Chief Police Commissioner of New Rochelle, Robert Gazzola, is over. He has been terminated. They're going to call it retirement, and they're going to give him a little party, and they're going to say whatever. He's been forced out, and he was forced to write a letter, okay, which you guys can see. At Maryann's suggestion, others, we now have a website, newrochellepoliceabuse.com. NEWROCHELLE, police, POLICE, abuse.com. So we have a lot of this discovery there, a lot of links. Okay. We have a letter from Chief Gazzola, Ryan T. Attorney General. Sometimes there are mistakes. And when we learned about Officer Schlesinger in 2022, we took actions to sever his contact with the public and referred him to you. Yeah, what about my case in 20? What about my case in 18? Right. What about all the letters from 13 to 19 of you disciplining him and no disciplinary records? What about all the letters of every other person that he had an altercation with? What about reversing his wrongful convictions? Go to the DA. You know what the DA says? Your case is not ready for the wrongful conviction. DA Kachesi, shame on you. My case is the biggest wrongful conviction, okay, since Moses part of denial. Okay, you don't want to reverse the conviction because Judge Kachesi, you were a judge 23 years in Westchester, and Chief Gazzola and Officer Schlesinger. And come on, people, let's not forget about the star of the show, Officer Cocaine, Officer Sean Payne, who signed my arrest report as a supervisor, that it was accurate and that it was true and that there was no video or audio and there was no records and no exonerating discovery to give to Mr. Fishman. Officer Cocaine, in June of 2024, caught planting cocaine on personal trainer Ivan Carr in New Rochelle, and then suspended 3 days later by Gazzola, head of the so-called narcotics unit, head of the special investigations, Officer Cocaine, Sean Cocaine. So wait a second. We have Officer Wensler, okay, who's written to the Attorney General at least 48 times saying when you go to rule on Schlesinger, a 2.5-year investigation, who's supposedly Officer Clean, right? We have Officer Cocaine, who signed the arrest report. We have Chief Gazzola, now canned. We have Officer Schlesinger terminated in May of 24 from this report. But of course, no one tells us. And Marc Fishman's lawsuit gets dismissed by the judge saying we weren't able to prove that my credibility was greater than the cops in the third week of January of 2025. Well, guess what? Let's go to the videotape. It ain't about me. It's about disability discriminating cops and agents for the judges and DAs that want to bury and want to support parent alienating ex-wives. And, you know, let's just call it what it is, Maryann. There's also parent alienating men. It's not just unique to women. So in February of 2012, I'm pleased to report to the group and the channel that I was discharged out of violence court. Yay! Okay, back to family court. Okay. Filed parentation charges. The support was terminated for one of my children, Aiden, who hasn't come to visit 5 years. $48,000. A hearing was set up with Judge Burke, who had never seen my case before. Okay, a magistrate, Rose Kavanaugh, referred it to Judge Burke. And we're supposed to have a hearing with Judge Burke. They give me assigned counsel. Okay, and we're supposed to have a parentation. And what happens? Dun, dun, dun. The return of disability discriminating Judge Shower. Yes, you got it, ladies and gentlemen. Judge Shower, who we were told recused by 7 judges, okay, who disability discriminated, who we had to sue in federal court to get a note taker, real-time transcription, who lied, who said I didn't prove I was disabled, who threw me in jail on a non-bailable offense, non-crime of what she saw, criminal contempt for sending gifts to my kids that she deemed were non-holidays, an order which allowed it. Okay, which were to scare me and silence me. No, jail inspired me. I got injured. Okay, I came out bleeding out of both ends. I can't sleep. I have flashing in my head from the flashing lights on every 10 minutes. And the guards came by. In the room where I was with the murderer, okay, murderers scare Fishman. No, murderers don't scare me. Okay, Judge Shower scares me. It scares me that Judge Shower still has a robe, Maryann, to torture someone else. It scares me that they have so little regard for disabled, Black and Spanish, and minorities and immigrants. I have an Indian friend who's being tortured by Shower. I have a friend who's a gentleman who Shower just threw in jail. She enjoys jailing people. She enjoys punishing them.
Oh,
so
yes,
Judge Shower is
sadistic.
a family court judge, right?
Yeah.
So how did Judge Shower take my case from Judge Burke? I said, where's the order? Oh, we don't have an order, Ms. Fishman. Well, Judge Shower is not an appellate judge. Judge Shower is not sitting in the Supreme Court. No, your case is in front of Judge Shower. This is horrible. She there's no way she can rule in front of me. You know, how did this happen? So then my attorneys say, we can't get involved. 3 assigned attorneys, one after the other. We can't get involved. We believe Shower accused. She can't be in this case. She has a federal order against her. And nonetheless, Maryann, she's a witness. Her staff testified in the criminal case and appeared in the federal case. She cannot oversee a case where she's a witness. Judge Shower says, I don't care. Send me a subpoena. I said, really, it's for your court attorney, D'Ambrosio. But, Your Honor, why are you so interested in me? I'm a very boring person. Mr. Fishman, we believe in the one judge rule. I said, so I had one judge, Capici, for 5.5 years for violence court because your client, Jennifer Solomon, you represent her. Come on. She wins everything. Okay. Because your client said I committed a violent act, which now, according to the charges of Schlesinger, who signed the misdemeanor charges that I went to the property. The same one he said on video that I didn't commit a crime 3 times. The same one on audio that my ex-wife said I was 4 houses away. You allowed him to have 5 years of me being tortured. Limited access to my kid. No access to my kids since 21. A supervisor was $200 an hour, paying for my own real-time transcription because your supervisor wouldn't. And during COVID, no contact with my kids. And my son, Jonah, had devastating consequences from COVID, lost a lot of weight, lost a lot of his hair. You wouldn't let me have contact. You still don't let me have contact. And now that I'm out of IDV, no one goes out of IDV. Violence court, you send me back to Judge Shower. Judge Shower, we believe in the one judge rule. Well, Judge, I had Judge Peach and one had you. I had other judges. I said, I have a federal transcript here. You recused. Well, I didn't recuse myself. I didn't recuse myself. Only I decide if I recuse. You need to recuse, Your Honor. You're a witness. Mr. Fishman, you send me a subpoena and I'll do it. But I'm here, you lost all your federal cases. Oh, I did. And Your Honor, what's this July 1621 order? Oh, that order. I said, whose name is on that? I said, look, it says Marc Fishman versus Michelle Shower and D'Ambrosio and Nancy Barry in the court system. You are hereby ordered to provide the communication accommodation to Mr. Fishman to access state court. No, Mr. Fishman, you're mistaken. That order is only good in federal court. I said, Your Honor, what page is that on? So I have 2 pages in order. I said, last I checked, we have court in English. Although I really hate to see what you do to a disabled person who speaks Spanish or Chinese. They'd just be goners. In your court, you discriminate so much. Your Honor, Mr. Fishman, you're mistaken. Everything you said is false. That order is only good against me and the court in federal court. I said, really? I said, Your Honor, you're 90 days to appeal. You didn't. You're represented by Attorney General. By the way, why is the Attorney General telling me you shouldn't be hearing this case, that it's inappropriate? Mr. Fishman, only I decide if I recuse. So I'm sent back to Judge Shower, and my ex-wife does her 3rd motion to dismiss the parentation charges because we were ordered. It said probable cause from the independent domestic violence unit, Judge Peachy. Then we have Magistrate Rose says clear parentation. We have a falsely arresting cop and the entire New Rochelle Police Department, and we got a DNF find the evidence, get the cameras and the audio. Okay. You have law enforcement. He's pattern misconduct, which means he has no credibility. There was no grand jury. There's only Officer Schlesinger signing a form saying that I committed a crime. That isn't worth half a gum dropping on a dirty sidewalk, Maryann. So my ex-wife's attorney from Hudson Valley, Virginia Folkerod, disability discriminating attorney who takes public funds, who tortures disabled people, says, I object. You have to dismiss. I said, Your Honor, are you going to dismiss my parentation case that 3 other judges, Judge Burke, Judge Cabanel Thompson, and Judge Capici, all said I made a prima facie case for? Are you going to do that? Because you can't be fair. There's no way you can witness a case. And I said, you see here by the protest of 3 assigned attorneys that they won't go in front of you. I said, Your Honor, before you answer that question, why don't we talk about what you did to Jillian McGoey? I said, Jillian McGoey was an attorney, okay, in 2013 who protested that Your Honor had sanctioned her $5,000 and took away her 18B pay because she filed a recusal against you, said you couldn't be fair. What'd you do? Oh, I'm going to tell you what the appellate division said. It's signed by Judge Mastro. That's the only judge who's ruled in my favor in that court. He used to run the court. Okay. You know what it said? It said your actions violate Judicial Codes of Conduct 100.1 to 100.9. You can't, Your Honor cannot fine a public attorney because they protest that you violate civil rights of their client, that you violate them as a disability discriminating judge, that you wouldn't pay them. You're ordered to pay them. No, Judge. I have Attorney Gash, Attorney Palmer, Attorney Kadar, who've all said they won't file a recusal motion for you because they'll get blacklisted. They won't get any business. And now I'm left without an attorney. I know, Ms. Fisher, we tried to call for 20. They won't represent me in front of you. But if we go back to Judge Burke, who hasn't recused, who you took away the case from illegally, you're not an appellate judge, Your Honor. You may think you're a dictator, but you're not. Let's call you what you are. A civil rights, disability discriminating bigot judge who hates parents that challenge and stand up for their civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
And Your Honor, let's get that to the transcript. Mr. Fishman, everything you say is false. We can't find you an attorney. Okay. What's going to happen? You're going to force me to represent myself? No, Mr. Fishman, you know what? I'm not going to dismiss this case. You can have your hearing in person. Well, Your Honor, I'm nursing a kidney infection here, and I'm bleeding out of my rear. I just have a rash, and now I have AFib surgery going on to put in a Watchman. Well, who cares? You come here in August, and we'll give you a trial. I need 3 days. No, we'll start with 1. Your Honor, I need 3 days, 3 witnesses. You're not going to let me bring witnesses? We all know you didn't let me bring witnesses before. We have all these nice things. Oh, Ms. Fisher, you can bring witnesses, but everything you say is untrue. And then my ex-wife's telling me, but Your Honor, how could we have a trial on parental alienation? Oh, how could I say? So, Mary, one day to prove alienation since 2012 with 17 witnesses? What do I got to prove? I have the ex-wife on video and audio saying, okay, that he has complete stay away. My ex-wife knew I never had a complete stay away. That order of protection that she said I violated, she got a copy of it. She testified she got a copy of it. She testified the criminal trial, Maryann, that I did not get a copy, that I was in jail cell. She also testified my attorney and my ADA after were not given a copy, but she was. Welcome to the world of retaliation. So what does Judge Shower do? Okay, my ex-wife files an application to sever my ability to get my children's school records, which is illegal under FERPA, on the IDA Act. I said, Judge Shower, you can't sign this. I said, this is illegal. I have civil rights. I said, I haven't been to school. Okay, I haven't talked to the kids' teachers ever, but I do talk to the school attorney, and I do talk to the dean, and I do talk to the kids' counselor, and I get records, and I have the parent portal. I get texts. A matter of fact, one of them texted me that my son Sky is coming out here to California, and he wanted to go to the FBLA America Business Club conference. And she said, would I pay $1,000? I said, I love my son Sky. I'd take 3 bullets for him, and I miss him to death. If he wants to go, I'll send you the money. But I can't ask him for permission, and I haven't spoken to him since February 27, 21. She says, he wants to go. I spoke to him. I said, I can't give you consent, and I can't tell you that I'll do it. But if you want me to send you the money, I will. I did. So what is ex-wife Jennifer? She files for me to sever the record saying I'm scaring Sky. I'm scaring my son.
They all do that. They
and
all
she
say
signs
that.
an order, Maryann, which we're appealing today, severing my access to the school records in violation of FERPA. What's more retaliation? What are you severing my records for? I spoke to the school attorney, said he's never seen an order like this. He said, Mr. Fishman, you don't harass anyone. You call me maybe once every 6 months. Okay. I typically send you records. I gave you access to the parent portal. You get these texts, you get these calls. I've never heard a complaint from the school district other than your ex-wife, who works there as their former DEI expert. When she was their DEI executive, I didn't get any records. Hint, retaliation. And now she says that my access to school records threatens her ability to parent. And it's my record that should be challenged. My record? I can't prove she's paying anyone off. Okay. Why do they love her so much? What access? You want to deny me access to school records to parent portal? Okay. It's been appealed to the federal court, to the state court, Hector's court. Okay. I hope they stay it. If they don't, we'll go into federal court and we'll go into the press. Okay. We all have a right to our kids' records. If you're in jail, if you are in an ambulance, if you're in a volcano in Hawaii, you have an access to records. Okay, it was your first strike because you know you own Judge Shower. Judge Shower didn't even have an evidentiary hearing. She just said granted. And get this, Maryann, we have 35 days to appeal an order that's mailed to you. So 2 days ago, I called the court. I said, I don't have a record that this was sent to me. And I went on the school portal trying to get access. No access. They sent me the order 2 days ago. 3 days left to appeal. Oh, so I wasn't going to get the order. But the school district got it already because this is Judge Shower. You don't get orders because Judge Shower don't want to be appealed because Judge Shower thinks she's a god.
Uh-huh.
We
Well,
need Judge Shower removed off the bench. We need the Commissioner of Conduct, Bob Temjekin, to investigate and remove her from the bench. Everybody should call Judge Wilson. Call directly to the top. Judge Wilson's his chambers, everyone. Ready? Maryann, I'll put on a site. 212-661-6787. Judge Rowan Wilson's chambers, his court attorney, his court secretary. Please call him and tell him to stop discriminating against Marc Fishman and disabled people in Westchester. Please call him to put in state monitors. I asked for an accommodation to Judge Shower under Part 52. Judge Shower says, I don't have to answer your accommodation request. Or if I were going to discuss it in front of your ex-wife. Really? Part 52 was designed as a accommodation outside the adversary process. Your Honor, you can't do that. Oh, we're going to do it anyway. We don't care, Mr. Fishman. We don't care. Okay, this is Judge Shower. How is she still on the bench?
no.
Judges protect judges. They love having her and Capici. Judge Capici convicted the mayor of domestic violence, Adam Bradley, one of my former attorneys. Adam Bradley's a gentleman. He wouldn't hurt anybody. It was reversed on appeal. They said Capici denied him a fair trial, no witnesses. Hint, hint, Capici never let me have one witness in 5.5 years. But now I got the Attorney General report. Oh, we can't ignore that. Mark's the only victim of Lane Slasher who's come forward. Oh, really? So you're thinking that I invented this crime? Oh, we got to have him. What are we having him for? The biggest way that you alienate is by having a parent arrested and subjecting them to IDV court and criminalizing them and taking away access to their kids. That's parent alienation, period. Over 5 years, you lose support, which is why Rose Cabanel ordered February 28, 25. Oh, but it's Judge Shower involved. Oh, no, to the rescue. Dun, 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 dun.
No.
Judge Shower, who stands by Officer Schlesinger and Officer Cocaine, terminated Chief Robert Gazzola. And let's not forget about the DAs. Mr. Fishman's case is not ripe for wrongful conviction. Why not? Because, oh, you're Judge Cachese. Before you were DA, you did 23 years as a judge. You're afraid of all your New Rochelle convictions going bye-bye because we have no civil rights in Westchester. If you're disabled and you advocate for your civil rights, you go to jail. If you ask for an accommodation, you get denied. If you want to hug your kid, you're told you'll never see your kids unsupervised again. I read that to Judge Shower. It's her May 6, 2017 transcript, Maryann. She said to me on the record, Mr. Fishman, I don't care if Miss Solomon's attorneys can prove whether you abused these kids. It's irrelevant to me. Whether you did or not, you will never have unsupervised access with these kids again. Maryann, 9 years later, I never have. Guess what? The reports were unfounded within 3 weeks. She said I strangled my twins after I had cubital tunnel surgery. For those who know cubital tunnel surgery, my fingers were hanging. Can't strangle anybody. But she accused me of strangling kids while they were at the gym. Oh, but ACS and CPS, because I live in New York City, and CPS in Westchester, the kids are, both investigators said unfounded evidence of lying. You know what Judge Shower said? They can't testify at the trial. Oh, no, we'll know if they're unfounded. Your Honor, why are we having a trial? It's unfounded. Summary judgment Fishman. They discriminated. No. I think he did it. Your Honor, overruled. Object, my attorney. No, I think he did it. Oh, but they're unfounded. Unfounded. Oh, it's unfounded. Your Honor, it's 4.5 years later. We couldn't bring in CPS or ACS testify? No. I think he did it. I don't want to hear any good references. I don't want to hear any people that could say he's a nice guy. Welcome to Judge Shower. Biggest regret I have in my life, Maryann, is not marrying Jennifer Solomon. An ex-wife is scorned, entitled to the best reputation they get. I feel I married Judge Shower. I have been cursed since I met her in 15. I know her ex-husband. Okay. His name is Wayne. What is his name? Oh, it'll come to me. And he divorced her while I had my trial with her. A lot of people said that I reminded her of him. He's in real estate. I'm in real estate.
Transference. Yep.
So, she couldn't get him. She got a 50-50 divorce. Oh, to go after me. Okay. This has been nothing but ridicule. Proof of disability is minimal under the ADA. Judge Shower kept on adjourning the hearing on the unfounded child abuse until I went to Judge Karras to end Judge Shower. And I was told by Lisa Evans, Omar Cumberbatch, who's the 9th District Deputy Exec, Jim McAllister, Deputy Exec, Judge Davidson, okay, I never appear in front of Judge Shower again. But guess what? They don't care. Send me back to Shower so that Fishman can get another beating up, another reckoning, so he can get more jail, more sentences, so he can just be guilty. Guilty of what? They still haven't dismissed the criminal case, Maryann. The dismissal was filed February 12th. Judge Petri took me out of violence court. I'm having another trial on her violating the visits in front of Judge Shower because that's what it was. My papers never heard. They were dismissed. Now they have to be heard. Now the kid's going to be 17. Oh, you're not going to hear Miss Fishman. You're just guilty. You know, guilty of what? Loving my kids, being a dedicated disabled dad, speaking out, suing you in federal court. Mr. Fishman, you lost everything. If I lost everything in federal court, why are you giving me the transcription now, Judge Shower? I find it comical. Here you are, you're correcting the transcriber, okay, on in April and May of this year, but yet you didn't give me transcription. You blocked them and blocked the note taker. I said, I fear for any parent going before you. You are a sick disability discrimination judge. You have impossible to be fair. You enjoy torturing people. You enjoy getting a kick out of this. You enjoy wearing your robe and your immunity. And you hate me because I pierced it. I got a federal Second Circuit to put your name down saying you're a disability discrimination judge. You'll never become a Supreme Court judge. You'll never be elevated. And you hate me for it. So why don't you just resign?
Yeah.
Why don't you let my kids see their dad who now has cancer, colon cancer, a dad who is dealing with kidney, AFib, on borrowed time. Oh, no, you can't have visits. But we'll bring you here in August. You can have your hearing. I need 3 days. Well, we'll see when you have the 1 day. Anyway, I need 3 days in a row. There's a lot of coordination. Who cares?
Oh, jeez.
I encourage everyone,
go there.
if you are in New York and if you have a terrible family court experience, call Chief Judge Wilson. Call Secretary, 212-661-6787. Make a complaint. Say your civil rights being violated. You can't get a fair hearing. Okay? This judge has empathy. The problem is in the Court of Appeals, he sees less than 300 cases. But it's his court. And when you call, you give a record. If you want to tell him to dismiss charges against me, go to New Rochelle, policeabuse.com. There's a draft letter you can send to Judge Williams, a new assigned judge in my case who has the pending motion to dismiss since February 12th, hasn't ruled on it, okay, and to dismiss my lifetime order of protection for my kids. Lifetime order of protection for what? Because I'm disabled? Because I want to be a great dad? Yeah. My kids love me. They've been deprived of me. Okay, but Maryann, I want to tell you, you know what? Thanks to your help, a lot of the other advocates and other stuff, I have the strength to keep going on. We pierced immunity. And we pierced immunity in the cop case, too. The cops have qualified immunity for what? Officer Schlesinger gets his $91,000 pension for what? Was discrimination be taken away? How come no one's prosecuting Officer Sean Kane? How come he remains suspended? How come no one sued him? How come DA Kachesi, now third DA, is not reviewing all the convictions of Officer Schlesinger and Officer Kane? And as a matter of fact, Robert Wenzel or Chief Gazzola. Why don't we get a federal monitor's estate for the whole department? Because they don't want to. It reverses. It's too much paperwork, too many wrongful convictions. But what about this wrongful conviction, period? What about evidence and what about justice? Justice and evidence? If you are wrongfully convicted in Westchester County, you're wrongfully convicted for life. My friend Jeff Deskowitz did 16 years for crime he didn't commit. DNA evidence exonerated him. He was accused of murdering a schoolmate in Peekskill. He's disabled. He has a funny accent, European accent. He was interviewed without an attorney. He exhausted every appeal. His last appeal to Judge Sotomayor was denied. She said it was late. It wasn't until DNA evidence and the Innocent Project that came out of the OJ trial, Schecht and Bainfield came up and said, DNA evidence didn't prove it. Matter of fact, DNA evidence proved that the criminal was already serving time in Queens, another jail. Jeff Deskowitz at the time got the largest settlement, $10 million. Didn't give him back at 16 years. Now he's a civil rights advocate. He was in Westchester. He was from our former DA, who's now a federal prosecutor. The DA from Fox News, what is the name? Pirro. Pirro convicted Jeff Deskowitz because they felt he was too emotional during questioning that he lost his friend, that he must be guilty. No DNA evidence. It was Judge DeFury, who later became chief judge, who made a motion to have the conviction withdrawn. It wouldn't have happened. They make it so impossible. Mr. Fishman, you have no access to the DA's office wrongful conviction. Why? The Attorney General already proved it. What are you doing about her report? Well, we still haven't gotten the letters. Once the Attorney General issues a report, she's supposed to disclose the report to the state Senate and the state Assembly leaders. That would be Cousins and Heastie. According to them, they have never got the disclosure. Oh, it's Marc Fishman's case. There's not going to be a disclosure to the Attorney General. Oh, because he don't get justice. He's a convict. He's got to be a convict. What about Slush should be in a conflict? What about arresting the ex-wife for making a false police report? Saying I went on a property in written form and testified and go on a property, says it was on the border, 4 hours away. Oh, we can't do that because she's an assistant principal in Larchmont, Maryland. Why not? Disabled people have no rights. Who's in Westchester County jail? Disabled people. Dyslexia. Mayor Adams said how many have dyslexia in Rikers. I've done a lot of cognitive rehab, Maryann. I struggle with names. I struggle with numbers. I still don't know Shower's ex-husband. Believe me, his name was Wayne something, and it'll come to me. But anyway, this is what goes on. How could Judge Shower be in the case? So now we're going to the appellate division to suspend emergency stay, even though they don't allow temporary orders to be appealed. We're asking them to appeal and stay Judge Shower denying me school records. School records I need to prepare for my parent donation hearing. School records that any parent should have, but Judge Shower is owned by Hudson Valley Justice Center and owned by Legal Services. And Judge Shower is unfit to be a judge. And Bob Tebjekian won't investigate her because at the Commission of Judicial Conduct, he protects judges instead of going after those that discriminate. Judge Capici, Judge Zuckerman, Judge Gordon, Greenwald, Judge Shower, they should all be removed.
Yes.
We need a clean slate. We need a total clean slate, and we need monitors. And we need cameras in the court, and we need 3 strikes laws by my friend Robert Garza that just passed Texas, that if you charge someone with abuse and they lose time, they're a non-custodial parent, you get the time back, and then you get criminal charges, you get a felony, and you get a fine. Okay? There was no consequence to my ex for calling in the false police reports. There's no consequence to her doing whatever the hell she's doing.
Yeah.
But what are they going to do? They can't hire the Attorney General report. The Attorney General report said they weren't investigating. Went to the Attorney General. How come all the New York City reports list every single federal and state 1983 lawsuit against all the cops labeled pattern misconduct? Not Schlesinger. It's the chief of police. Was this a little cover-up by Letitia James? How come Letitia James hasn't been charged with mortgage fraud, Maryann?
Yeah.
She said she had a primary residence in Virginia when she's living in New York. Why is it dual justice? Why is it justice for the non-disabled and the celebrities, but those of us who have a disability, okay, those of us who struggle, okay, it's like, no, you're labeled convict and you're labeled, you'll never see your kids again unsupervised. It's got to end. It will end. Because of people like you and me. It'll end. And I tell people, New Rochelle, policeabuse.com. We're building out the website. Feel free to send a letter to Judge Williams. His court attorney is Jay Kinloch at NewYorkCourts.com. That's JKINLOCHE, JKINLOCHE at NewYorkCourts, plural.gov. Jay Kinloch at NewYorkCourts.gov. You see a draft letter on the website. Please send it in to Judge Williams. I hope he's impartial. I don't know. And quite frankly, it seems and feels that we're going back to federal court. To get some sort of element of justice and expose the abuse, the rampant abuse. But Judge Shower, instead of saying empathy, instead of saying sorry, instead of saying she learned, she feels more empowered than ever to punish the disabled father of 4 who exposed her and forced the court system to give accommodations to those with invisible disabilities and helped others get note takers and other stuff, and who testified against Hector LaSalle's elevation, 1 of 3, and 46 state senators denied it. So Judge Shower wants retaliation. She wants blood. She wants me in jail.
Right.
She wants to invent crimes.
Yeah, don't
Judge Shower. I'm not scared of you. No one should be scared of you.
Well, God is watching, and I'm glad you spoke out. And do you want people to reach you through NewRochellePoliceAbuse.com?
Please, we're building it out. And I'm happy to say I have two disabled fellow parents helping me with that. We have to share, the work with those of us who suffer with the, most difficult impairments. So I believe in employing those who equally lose their kids and equally passion. And I want to thank them, Mike and James, for helping me with the website. And thank you, Maryann. You've encouraged me to get a website. It's my first one. I want to also end by saying most cops are good cops, and don't do this stuff. However, there are rogue cops out there. And if you are disabled, I hate to say it, don't say one word to a cop ever. If a cop asks you anything, you say, I want my lawyer. That's it. Because guess what? They're going to misconstrue what you said as a disabled person, or misinterpret, half the time. And then you have a situation like me from a December 15, 18 false arrest. They still don't want to exonerate me. They still don't want to give me the wrongful conviction. They didn't want to give an attorney general report on Schlesinger. They didn't even disclose it in discovery. They didn't want to say how Wensler was going after him for years. They didn't want to say how Gazolis acknowledged that pattern abuser. Wensler said when the attorney general subpoenaed Schlesinger, she said, how come he hasn't answered my subpoenas? When can I come in and interview him? And Officer Wensler said, Officer Schlesinger is so unreliable that I don't know if he's going to show up or not show up on any given day. Wait a second, you just wrote to the attorney general, said he's on desk duty. Now he's allowed to show up when he wants to? Why don't you just fire him?
Oh my God.
Oh, you can't just fire him because Mark's suing him in federal court in front of Judge Rowan, another cop who now has your letter in the history submitted to the court saying we were not disclosed. It was definitely discoverable. This is intentional. The Quinn law firm that protects New Rochelle cops and protects other cops at all costs at the expense of the marginalized, disabled, Black, and minorities.
Right.
Because we have no rights to them.
Oh.
But guess what? We got the Attorney General report. So we went to the Attorney General. Did you even write to the DA to dismiss these wrongful actions? Oh, that's not our job. It's not your job. Well, the law enforcement conduct doesn't require us to follow up. Well, Police Chief Tish in New York City, she's following up. Tough cookie, good lady. She makes them go for retraining, psychological counseling, retraining as a cop, classes, and determines you're going to be a good cop going forward or you're out. For those that weren't serious enough to fire, what does Chief Gazzola do? Oh, we're sorry for Officer Schlesinger, because he wrote back to the Attorney General the letter which they said I couldn't get because fall Rex surprise says, we're catching on, so we when we found out about Officer Schlesinger in 2022. I mean, you found out about him in 13. He started as a cop in 2006. When you found out in 13, we isolated him in 2022, away from the public. You isolated him. What about everyone he testified for his 17 years as a cop? What about Officer Cocaine and his 17.7 years as a cop? What about every wrongful conviction, wrong testimony?
Yeah, they have to
Officer
answer to
Gazzola,
this.
what are you doing? So they require the police chief to write back to Attorney General. I'm happy to report that we ordered new software that'll help us keep track of disciplinary records.
Huh.
That's great. That's a nice first step.
Yeah.
I'll give you a nickel for it. What about reversing wrongful convictions? What about helping disabled families? What about helping the pattern abuse against Black and Spanish people? What about all the false tickets, false arrests, false testimony? You're buying software.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you came on.
And now he is terminated. But Maryann, they're going to say, oh, it's a retirement. Oh,
yeah, they all do that.
They said Schlesinger voluntarily retired. They still haven't formally terminated Officer Cocaine, Sean Kane. Oh, he's suspended. Oh, but he gets his $120,000 pension for planting drugs and Ivan Harper. And Schlesinger gets $91,000. And Mark can't see his kids. Okay, Mark has to fight a wrongful conviction, which never should happen.
Right.
and no consequence to judges.
Well,
We've
I'm
written
so
to the
glad.
prosecutor misconduct, Maryann, and all I can tell your viewers is never, ever accept a no answer from an insurance company or from the government. Fight for your rights. Stay resilient. Don't accept that they don't have a camera or an audio, and don't accept they don't have a report, because I'll end this show with this comment. You know, my own relatives, my own father, said that the dumbest thing I ever did in my life was suing the cops
Mm.
back in January 2019. Maryann, 6 years and 2 months, loads discovery, attorney general report, helping loads of other people. And the biggest people we helped were other minorities, disabled, Black, and Spanish people, because guess what? Officer Cocaine, Officer Schlesinger, and now Gazola aren't there to discriminate against another minority, Black or Spanish person. Amen to that.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I'd like to have you back on again with an update on what's
Absolutely, whenever you want.
okay. Hey, don't jump off, okay? Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and other platforms. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Marc Fishman, for coming on and updating us with your case. Thank you.
Thank you, Maryann, and thank you to the viewers. Stay resilient, stay active, and never give up, never surrender. You're going to win in the end. Promise you that.
Mm-hmm.